What my son Michael and his wife Jennifer didn't know as they left me stranded at Rodriguez Auto Repair, with condescending instructions to just let the professionals handle everything, was that in exactly 6 weeks, I would be walking into their driveway with a tow truck and a legal repossession order for the $45,000 BMW they'd been making payments on. Payments that were about to become impossible when they discovered I owned the very financing company that held their loan. Along with a network of 12 auto repair shops across northern Nevada that would make their assumptions about my limited understanding of cars the most expensive mistake of their lives. Before we dive into this incredible story of family condescension meeting automotive expertise, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment telling me about the most ridiculous thing someone has ever assumed you couldn't handle because of your age or gender, and subscribe because you're going to want to see how a 70-year-old grandmother turned being abandoned at a mechanic shop into a business empire that would make Detroit executives take notes. My name is Dorothy Castellano. I'm 70 years old, and this story begins 14 months ago when my world shifted in ways that even my 5 decades in the automotive industry couldn't have prepared me for. For 48 years, I had been married to Vincent Castellano, a brilliant mechanical engineer who spent his career designing fuel injection systems, while I built and managed auto repair businesses across 3 states. We lived what most people would consider a successful life in our custom home in Sparks, Nevada, a 3-acre property with a fully equipped automotive shop, tool collection worth more than most people's houses, and panoramic views of the Sierra Nevada mountains. But let me be absolutely clear about something from the start. I wasn't just Vincent's wife or my family's convenient elderly relative who used to help out at the garage. I was a woman with 5 decades of automotive industry experience, ASE Master Technician certification, a business degree from University of Nevada, and a track record of turning struggling repair shops into profitable enterprises that employed hundreds of people and served thousands of satisfied customers. I had personally designed, launched, and managed 11 different automotive businesses across Nevada, California, and Arizona. My expertise included everything from engine rebuilding and transmission repair to business management and customer service operations. I spoke fluent Spanish and Italian, held certifications in hybrid vehicle technology and diesel mechanics, and had been quietly managing our family's automotive investments with a level of strategic thinking that had generated substantial wealth over the decades. During my career, I had developed relationships with parts suppliers, equipment manufacturers, automotive technicians, and business brokers throughout the Southwest. I understood labor laws, environmental regulations, and the complex world of automotive financing in ways that extended far beyond theoretical knowledge. I had successfully navigated state licensing boards, EPA compliance requirements, and commercial real estate markets. These skills would prove more valuable than anyone in my family could have imagined. Our property wasn't just any piece of land. It was a meticulously planned and developed automotive paradise that Vincent and I had spent 35 years creating from what had originally been empty desert scrubland. We hadn't just bought acreage. We had transformed bare land into a showcase of automotive craftsmanship and business development that was regularly featured in trade publications and industry magazines. The main house sat on a gentle rise overlooking our private automotive complex, a pristine 8-bay professional garage facility that we had built from the ground up with state-of-the-art equipment and environmental controls. The shop itself was a stunning example of efficient design. 12,000 square feet of climate-controlled workspace with hydraulic lifts, alignment equipment, engine dynamometers, and diagnostic computers that could handle everything from classic muscle cars to modern hybrid vehicles. Beyond the main shop, our property included a parts warehouse, a paint booth facility that met all EPA standards, a customer lounge with coffee and Wi-Fi, specialty tool collections that mechanics would travel hundreds of miles to see, and storage areas for project vehicles that ranged from pristine classics to exotic imports. But here's what made this property truly extraordinary. Every building, every piece of equipment, every business system, and every customer relationship had been carefully planned and executed by Vincent and me over 3 decades of hands-on work. We had invested not just our money, but our expertise, our physical labor, and our shared vision of automotive excellence into creating something that was both profitable as a business demonstration and deeply meaningful as our life's work. Vincent had designed innovative diagnostic systems that could troubleshoot problems other shops couldn't solve, while maintaining emission compliance and fuel efficiency standards. I had created customer service protocols that turned one-time repairs into lifetime relationships while building a reputation for honesty and expertise that kept our appointment book full for months in advance. Together, we had built something that automotive trade associations, technical schools, and industry researchers used as a model for combining technical excellence with business success. The specialized equipment in our facility included a state-of-the-art Hunter alignment machine, worth $85,000, a computerized engine diagnostic system that could interface with vehicles from 1996 to present, a 4-post lift system for undercarriage work, and a paint booth with downdraft ventilation that met the strictest environmental standards. We had invested over $400,000 in tools and equipment that most independent shops could never afford, creating capabilities that attracted customers from across 3 states. Our customer base included everyone from weekend hobbyists restoring classic Mustangs to fleet managers for construction companies who needed reliable commercial vehicle service. We handled everything from routine maintenance on family sedans to complete engine rebuilds on vintage sports cars. Our specialty services included performance tuning, diesel engine repair, transmission rebuilding, and hybrid system diagnostics, skills that required years of training and equipment that cost more than most people's annual salaries. More importantly, this empire was entirely mine. When Vincent passed away 18 months ago after a sudden heart attack, he left everything to me in a will that had been carefully crafted by our attorney, Rebecca Martinez, who had been our friend and legal counsel for over 20 years. The buy, shops, our investment portfolio, Vincent's consulting contracts, our various business accounts, and his substantial life insurance policies, all of it became mine to manage as I saw fit. This wasn't an accident or oversight. Vincent and I had discussed our business succession planning thoroughly, updating our wills every few years as our assets grew and our understanding of our legacy evolved. Vincent insisted that everything go to me because, as he told Rebecca, during our final will revision, Dot has been the business brains of this operation since day one. She'll know exactly how to honor what we've built while taking it to the next level. He was absolutely right. I had been the one managing our business, acquisitions for the last 30 years of our marriage. While Vincent focused on technical innovation and equipment design, I had been researching expansion opportunities, managing our commercial real estate portfolio, and developing the long-term vision that allowed us to live comfortably while building substantial wealth and industry influence. By the time Vincent died, our net worth was approximately $4.2 million. The main property was worth $1.8 million. We had $1.4 million in various business investments, $600,000 in commercial real estate, and $400,000 in life insurance proceeds. We also owned minority stakes in 6 other automotive businesses across the region that generated steady dividend income. But the real surprise, which even Vincent didn't fully understand, was the extent of my involvement in automotive financing. While he assumed I was simply investing our profits in mutual funds and real estate, I had actually been quietly building a network of relationships with used car dealers, independent mechanics, and financing companies throughout Nevada and California. Had started small 15 years earlier, providing short-term loans to customers who needed major repairs but couldn't pay up front. What began as helping loyal customers evolved into a sophisticated financing operation that served dozens of auto repair shops and used car dealers across the region. By the time Vincent died, I was quietly providing financing for over $2.3 million in automotive purchases and repairs annually, earning substantial interest income that I had been reinvesting in expanding our operation. I mention these numbers, not to boast, but to establish something crucial. I was not a poor widow dependent on my family's charity or guidance. I was a financially secure, business-owning woman who had spent decades making smart decisions about money, property, and automotive. Industry investments. My son Michael was our only child, born when I was 28 and Vincent was 31. We had tried for several years to have more children, but after 2 miscarriages and fertility challenges, we focused all our energy on raising Michael with an appreciation for hard work, mechanical skills, and the value of building something meaningful with your hands. Perhaps we focused too much. In retrospect, I can see that we may have provided Michael with too many advantages without requiring enough personal responsibility in return. But at the time, we were simply parents who wanted to give our only child every opportunity to develop his talents and find his own path to success. Michael was undeniably intelligent. He excelled academically through high school, received a partial scholarship to University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he studied business administration and graduated with decent grades. During college, he worked part-time at our shop and seemed interested in eventually taking over the family business. He showed natural aptitude for mechanical work as a teenager, helping Vincent with routine maintenance and showing genuine curiosity about how engines functioned. I taught him basic electrical troubleshooting, and Vincent showed him engine rebuilding techniques. By age 16, Michael could diagnose most common automotive problems and perform repairs that impressed our professional customers. But somewhere during his post-college years, particularly after he moved to Las Vegas and started working in casino management, Michael developed an attitude toward manual labor and automotive work that troubled both Vincent and me. He began to view our repair shop business as blue-collar rather than professional, dismissing careers focused on automotive work as economically limiting and describing our property as impressive but not really scalable from an investment perspective. "Mom, you and Dad have created something amazing here," he would say during visits home, "but you're not maximizing its growth potential. This business model is too hands-on and labor-intensive to scale effectively. Michael, we're not interested in scaling it beyond what we can personally oversee. We're interested in maintaining quality and building long-term customer relationships. But that's so limiting. You could franchise the concept, create licensing agreements, maybe even sell to a larger chain. You're sitting on a brand that could be worth millions if you developed it properly." These conversations revealed a fundamental disconnect between Michael's emerging worldview and the values that Vincent and I had tried to instill in him. He was beginning to see everything, including our life's work, primarily through the lens of financial optimization rather than craftsmanship, customer service, or personal fulfillment. The change became most obvious during family gatherings, when Michael would describe his work at the casino with enthusiasm, while dismissing our automotive business as what my parents do for a living, rather than recognizing it as a sophisticated operation that required extensive technical knowledge and business acumen. "Michael, your mother is one of the most knowledgeable automotive diagnosticians in this region," Vincent would say during one particularly frustrating conversation. "She can troubleshoot electrical problems that stump technicians with decades of experience." "I know Dad's proud of Mom's skills," Michael would respond, "but that's not really the point. The automotive repair industry is being disrupted by technology and consolidation. Independent shops can't compete with franchise operations and dealer service departments." Michael was repeating business school theories about industry consolidation, without understanding that our success was based on exactly the kind of specialized expertise and customer relationships that large operations couldn't replicate. After college, Michael moved to Las Vegas and worked for several casino companies, eventually landing a well-paying position as operations manager for a resort that specialized in hosting corporate conferences. He seemed to be building a successful independent life, earning good money, living in a nice apartment near the Strip, and dating regularly. His work involved coordinating complex events for wealthy business people, managing vendor relationships, and ensuring that every detail of high-end conferences met exacting standards. It was demanding work that required excellent organizational skills and attention to detail, skills that we had helped him develop through years of working in our precision-focused automotive environment. But Michael seemed to view his casino work as completely separate from anything he had learned in our shop, rather than recognizing that customer service, attention to detail, and problem-solving under pressure were exactly the skills that made our automotive business successful. 2 years ago, he married Jennifer Walsh, a marketing coordinator who specialized in luxury hospitality promotions. I wanted to like Jennifer. She was 29 years old, attractive, well-educated, and seemed to make Michael happy. She had grown up in Henderson, earned her marketing degree from UNLV, and was apparently quite successful promoting high-end events for wealthy tourists who wanted exclusive Vegas experiences. Jennifer's work involved creating marketing campaigns for luxury experiences, private dining events, exclusive entertainment packages, and customized travel itineraries for people who were willing to pay premium prices for unique experiences. Her social media presence showcased glamorous events, expensive venues, and the kind of lifestyle that looked impressive to people who valued appearances over substance. But from the beginning, something about Jennifer's attitude toward our family and our business made me uncomfortable. Unlike previous girlfriends who had shown genuine interest in our automotive work and seemed to appreciate the skill and dedication required for our success, Jennifer viewed our business primarily as a family trade that was holding Michael back from reaching his full potential. During their first visit to introduce Jennifer to our operation, she spent most of the weekend taking photos for her social media and asking surface-level questions about revenue, profit margins, and exit strategies. She showed little interest in the technical aspects of our work, the craftsmanship involved in restoration projects, or the customer relationships we had built over decades. "This place is absolutely incredible," she told me as we stood in the main shop watching Vincent diagnose a transmission problem. "The equipment is so expensive and sophisticated. You could probably sell all this gear and retire very comfortably." "Jennifer, we have no interest in selling our equipment. This is our life's work, not a liquidation opportunity." "Of course not now. But you have to think about the future. Michael and I could help you develop a transition plan that would maximize the business value while giving you financial security for retirement." The conversation revealed that Jennifer was already thinking about our business as something she and Michael would eventually inherit and monetize, rather than as our current livelihood that we intended to preserve and continue operating. Her questions focused entirely on financial aspects rather than operational details. She wanted to know about our annual revenue, profit margins, and asset values, but showed no curiosity about diagnostic procedures, customer satisfaction rates, or the technical expertise required for complex repairs. "How many customers do you serve annually?" she asked during a tour of our facility. "We typically handle about 2,400 repair orders per year," I replied, "plus ongoing maintenance contracts with several fleet operators." "And what's the average ticket value?" "It varies significantly depending on the type of work. Routine maintenance might be $200, while a complete engine rebuild could be $8,000 or more. So you're probably looking at gross revenue around $800,000. Annually?" "Jennifer, our revenue is healthy, but the real value is in our reputation and customer relationships. We have clients who've been coming here for 20 years. But customer loyalty doesn't really matter if you're planning to retire and sell the business, right?" Jennifer was viewing our decades of relationship building as irrelevant to the financial transaction she was already planning in her mind, but what really troubled me was Jennifer's attitude toward Vincent during his final months. As his heart condition worsened and he required more medical attention, Jennifer began making comments about the stress of maintaining such a demanding business and suggesting that we should consider transitioning to a more relaxed lifestyle. "Dorothy, I know you love this work," she said during one particularly difficult visit when Vincent was having chest pains, But you have to be realistic about the future. This business requires constant physical labor, and as you and Vincent get older, it's going to become impossible to maintain the same standards. Jennifer, we have excellent employees and contractors who help with the heavy work, and I'm perfectly capable of managing business operations. But what happens when Vincent? She paused delicately. What happens when you're running everything? Alone? You can't possibly handle 12-hour days in a garage at your age. Jennifer was suggesting that I should start planning for widowhood by scaling back my life and moving away from the business that represented my career expertise. She seemed to view Vincent's illness as an opportunity to plant seeds about my future need for their guidance and assistance. Jennifer, I've been managing the business operations of this shop for 30 years. Vincent handles the most complex diagnostic work, but I coordinate everything else. But Dorothy, managing operations is different from handling technical problems and physical repairs. You'll need help with the parts of the business that require mechanical expertise. Jennifer was revealing that she had no understanding of my technical capabilities or my role in our operation. She assumed that my contributions were limited to administrative tasks rather than recognizing that I was qualified to handle any repair that came through our doors. After Vincent died, Jennifer and Michael's visits became more frequent and more focused on what they called helping me adjust to my new reality. But their version of help involved constant suggestions about how I should simplify my life, reduce my responsibilities, and make decisions that would set me up for a comfortable retirement. The suggestions started small but gradually became more invasive and presumptuous. Michael thought I should hire a general manager to handle day-to-day operations. Jennifer suggested I should consider selling the specialty equipment because maintaining diagnostic computers is too complicated for someone without technical training. They both worried about me working long hours in what they called a dangerous industrial environment. "Mom, we just want you to be safe and secure," Michael would say when I expressed resistance to their suggestions. "This business is impressive, but it's also physically demanding and technically complex. Wouldn't it be easier to find something less stressful and more appropriate for your stage of life?" "Michael, I'm perfectly comfortable managing this business. I've been doing it for 50 years. But you've never done it without Dad's technical support. Are you really prepared to handle diagnostic troubleshooting, equipment maintenance, employee management, and customer relations all by yourself?" Michael was suggesting that I was incapable of managing tasks that I had actually been handling for decades while Vincent focused on the most complex technical problems. He seemed to have forgotten that I was the one who had managed our business operations, coordinated with suppliers, and handled customer relationships throughout our marriage. "Michael, I've been troubleshooting electrical problems since before you were born. Your father and I divided responsibilities based on our interests and strengths, not because I was incapable of handling technical work. I know you're skilled, Mom, but there's a difference between being able to help Dad with repairs and running a complete automotive service operation independently." "What difference?" "Well, you'd be responsible for everything. Diagnosing complex problems, managing employee schedules, handling customer complaints, maintaining equipment, ordering parts, dealing with regulatory compliance. That's a huge amount of responsibility for one person." Michael was listing responsibilities that I had been managing for years, as if my participation in our business had been limited to occasionally helping Vincent, rather than being a full partner in every aspect of our operation. But the most revealing conversations happened around 8 months after Vincent's death, when Jennifer began raising the topic of my transportation needs with increasing frequency and urgency. "Dorothy, Michael, and I have been talking about your car situation," she said during a Sunday dinner that I had prepared for them in my own dining room. "Your truck is getting old, and you're going to need reliable transportation as you get older." I was driving a 2018 Ford F-150 that I had bought specifically for hauling automotive parts and equipment. It had 45,000 miles, excellent maintenance records, and was perfectly suited for my needs. What's wrong with my truck? Well, it's a big vehicle that's probably getting harder to handle safely. And if something goes wrong with it, you'd be stranded. Without transportation. Jennifer, I've been driving trucks for 40 years, and if something goes wrong with it, I own a fully equipped automotive repair facility. But Dorothy, you can't work on your own vehicle. That would be unsafe and impractical. Jennifer was suggesting that I couldn't repair my own truck, despite having spent 5 decades fixing vehicles for thousands of other people. Jennifer, I've rebuilt engines, diagnosed electrical problems, and performed major repairs on vehicles that were far more complex than my truck. I know you've helped Vincent with automotive work, but working on your own daily driver is different from helping with customer vehicles. How is it different? Well, if you make a mistake on a customer vehicle, Vincent could fix it. But if you make a mistake on your own truck, you could be stranded or even hurt in an accident. Jennifer was revealing that she viewed my decades of automotive expertise as helping Vincent, rather than recognizing that I was a fully qualified technician capable of working independently. The conversation continued with Jennifer and Michael, presenting increasingly detailed arguments about why I needed more appropriate transportation and why they should help me make decisions about replacing my truck. "Mom, we're not saying you're a bad driver," Michael said. "We're saying that as you get older, you should be thinking about vehicles that are easier and safer to operate." "What kind of vehicles? Maybe something smaller and more fuel efficient." Jennifer's been researching sedans that have good safety ratings and are designed for senior drivers. Designed for senior drivers? Cars with features like backup cameras, lane departure warnings, automatic emergency braking, technology that can help prevent accidents. Michael was suggesting that I needed automotive safety technology to compensate for declining driving abilities, despite having no evidence that my driving skills had deteriorated. "Michael, I drive about 200 miles per week, mostly on familiar roads to businesses I've been visiting for 20 years. I've never had an accident or a moving violation." "We know, Mom. But it's better to be proactive about safety rather than waiting for a problem to develop." Jennifer reinforced Michael's safety concerns with her own research about appropriate vehicles for older adults. "Dorothy, I've been looking at consumer reports about vehicles that are rated highly for senior drivers. There are some really nice sedans that would be much more practical than your truck." "What makes them more practical?" "They're easier to get in and out of, better on gas mileage, and simpler to maintain. Plus, they're less intimidating for other drivers on the road." "Jennifer, I use my truck to haul automotive parts, equipment, and project vehicles. A sedan wouldn't meet my transportation needs." "But Dorothy, how often do you really need to haul large items? Most of the time, you're just driving to the grocery store or medical appointments." Jennifer was assuming that my transportation needs were limited to personal errands, rather than understanding that I was actively operating an automotive business that required hauling capability. "Jennifer, I use my truck for business purposes. Almost daily. I pick up parts from suppliers, transport equipment between locations, and occasionally haul customer vehicles. But couldn't you have those items delivered? Most businesses offer delivery services now." "Some do, but delivery is expensive and often inconvenient. Besides, I enjoy being able to handle my own transportation needs." "But Dorothy, enjoying something and being practical about safety are different considerations. As we get older, we all have to make adjustments to maintain our independence." Jennifer was framing my desire to continue driving my truck as stubbornness, rather than recognizing it as a practical necessity for operating my business. But what came next revealed the true scope of their plans for managing my transportation situation and their assumptions about my declining capabilities. "Actually, Mom," Michael said, "Jennifer and I have been thinking about our own transportation needs too. Our lease is up next month, and we're considering buying something more reliable." "What does that have to do with my truck?" "Well, if you decide to downsize to a sedan, we might be interested in taking over payments on a truck that would work for both of us." "Taking over payments?" "We've been looking at new trucks, and the payments are pretty high. If you were planning to get something smaller and more practical, we could help you with the transition while solving our own transportation problem. Michael was suggesting that I should give up my truck so they could take over the payments, while framing this as helping me make a practical decision about my transportation needs. Michael, I'm not planning to get rid of my truck. I need it for my business operations. But Mom, are you really planning to continue operating the business at the same level? Wouldn't it make more sense to scale back and focus on enjoying retirement? I'm not interested in retiring. I'm interested in continuing to work. But at some point, you'll need to slow down. Why not start planning for that transition now, while you have choices about how to handle it? Michael was suggesting that my age automatically made continued business activity unrealistic, regardless of my health, capabilities, or preferences. But the most disturbing aspect of their transportation conversation was how they had begun to position themselves as the responsible family members who were looking out for my safety, while implying that my resistance to their suggestions was evidence of poor judgment or stubborn refusal to accept reality. Mom, we know it's hard to think about making changes, Michael said during one particularly condescending conversation. Losing Dad was traumatic, and adjusting to managing everything independently is really challenging. We just want to help. You make decisions that will keep you safe and secure. Michael was suggesting that my grief was impairing my judgment, and that my preferences about my own transportation were potentially dangerous, rather than valid expressions of my practical needs and personal values. Michael, I'm not making decisions based on grief. I'm making decisions based on what I need to operate my business and maintain my independence. But Mom, are you sure you're thinking clearly about what's realistic? Sometimes when people are dealing with loss, they hold on to things that represent their past rather than planning for their future. My truck doesn't just represent my past. It represents my ongoing work and my practical transportation needs. But what if those needs aren't actually realistic anymore? What if you're holding on to a lifestyle that made sense when Dad was alive, but doesn't make sense for your current situation? Michael was suggesting that my business activities had been dependent on Vincent in ways that made them impossible to continue, rather than recognizing that I had been an equal partner in creating and maintaining our automotive operation. Jennifer reinforced Michael's psychological analysis with her own observations about my adjustment process. Dorothy, it's completely normal to want to maintain everything exactly as it was when Vincent was alive. That's a natural part of grieving. But eventually, healthy adjustment means accepting that some things need to change. What needs to change specifically? Well, your transportation needs, your business responsibilities, your daily routines. All of those were built around being part of a couple. Now that you're on your own, it makes sense to create a lifestyle that's designed for independent living. Jennifer was suggesting that my current lifestyle was inherently unhealthy because it had been designed for couple living, rather than recognizing that I was perfectly capable of independent living in the environment I had helped create. Jennifer, I'm living independently. I'm managing my business, my finances, my transportation, and my daily activities without assistance from anyone. But for how much longer? And at what cost? You're spending enormous amounts of time and energy maintaining a lifestyle that's becoming increasingly difficult to sustain. I'm spending time and energy on work that I find meaningful and fulfilling. But Dorothy, there are so many other meaningful and fulfilling activities that you could pursue if you weren't tied down by business management responsibilities. You could travel, take classes, volunteer for causes you care about, develop new friendships and hobbies. Jennifer was painting a picture of retirement activities that might appeal to some people, but had no connection to my actual interests or values. She was suggesting that I should give up work I found rewarding in favor of generic senior activities that she assumed would be more appropriate for my age. This pattern of conversations continued for months, with Jennifer and Michael presenting increasingly detailed arguments about why my current lifestyle was unsustainable, and why their recommended changes would be better for everyone involved. They talked about the physical demands of automotive work, the complexity of modern diagnostic equipment, the challenges of managing employees, and the potential risks of operating machinery in an industrial environment. Every aspect of my life that I found meaningful and fulfilling was reframed as a problem that needed to be solved through downsizing and simplification. But what troubled me most was how they presented their concern as care, while systematically undermining my autonomy and decision-making authority. They weren't asking what I wanted or what would make me happy. They were telling me what they thought was best for me based on their assumptions about aging and their own priorities about lifestyle and financial management. But what Jennifer and Michael didn't know was that while they were developing their plans for my future and their inheritance, I had been having some very different conversations with some very strategic people in the automotive and financing industries. 6 months after Vincent's death, I had reconnected with former colleagues and started exploring opportunities to expand our automotive operation into something that would honor our technical work while generating substantial income and providing meaningful employment for skilled technicians. I had been quietly researching automotive dealership opportunities, financing partnerships, and service center acquisitions that were thriving in similar markets throughout the Southwest. I had also been consulting with business attorneys who specialized in automotive franchising, accountants who understood the complexities of multi-location operations, and industry analysts who tracked consolidation trends in the independent repair market. My decades of automotive experience, combined with the financial resources Vincent and I had accumulated, suggested possibilities that were far more exciting and profitable than anything Jennifer and Michael were envisioning. Most importantly, I had been working with our attorney, Rebecca Martinez, to ensure that my business assets were protected from any attempts to have me declared incompetent or unable to manage my own affairs. Rebecca had helped me establish a comprehensive business succession plan that would preserve my autonomy while protecting my assets from family members who might try to pressure me into decisions that served their interests rather than mine. But I wasn't ready to reveal any of these plans yet. I wanted to see how far Jennifer and Michael would go with their campaign to convince me that I was too old and incapable to manage my own life. I wanted to understand exactly what they were planning for my business and my future before I showed them what I was actually capable of achieving. Because while they were researching sedans and calculating transportation costs, I was designing a business expansion plan that would transform their inheritance expectations into my entrepreneurial triumph. The automotive empire they viewed as an outdated operation waiting for their management was about to become the foundation for a business network that would make their casino salaries look like pocket change. And their assumptions about my declining capabilities were about to become very, very expensive for their financial plans. What they didn't realize was that dismissing a 70-year-old woman with 5 decades of automotive expertise as someone who needed to simplify her life was like assuming a sleeping tiger was just a large, harmless cat. They were about to learn the difference between managing elderly relatives and underestimating entrepreneurial genius. But first, they had to complete their campaign to convince me that I was too old and confused to make my own decisions. That campaign was about to reach its peak with their final ultimatum about my need to face reality about aging and transportation. Little did they know that I had been facing reality, the reality of turning their manipulation into my next business venture. What I didn't expect during those first few months after Vincent's death was how quickly Jennifer and Michael would transition, from supportive family members to self-appointed life managers, who seemed to believe they had the authority to make decisions about my future. It started subtly, with helpful suggestions about modernizing my business practices, but gradually escalated into a systematic campaign to convince me that I was incapable of managing my own affairs. The transformation became obvious during what should have been a pleasant family weekend in early fall. Jennifer and Michael had driven up from Las Vegas for what they described as a relaxing visit, but which quickly revealed itself as a carefully orchestrated intervention designed to pressure me into accepting their vision of my future. They arrived on a Friday evening with enough luggage for a week-long stay, despite having told me they were planning a simple weekend visit. I watched from my kitchen window as Michael unloaded boxes of files, a laptop computer, a portable printer, and what appeared to be presentation materials from their rental car. "Mom," Michael said as he carried everything up to the guest room, "Jennifer and I have been doing some research on your behalf, and we wanted to spend the weekend going through some options that might interest you." "What kind of options?" "Business management solutions, financial planning strategies, equipment modernization possibilities. Just different approaches that might make your operation more efficient and less demanding." It was a reasonable explanation, but the amount of preparation they had done suggested this was less a casual conversation and more a formal presentation designed to convince me to accept predetermined conclusions. "Michael, I didn't ask you to research business management solutions on my behalf." "I know, Mom, but that's what family does. We look out for each other and help each other navigate complex decisions. You'd do the same thing for us if we were facing a major business transition." The phrase major business transition revealed how Michael was framing my widowhood, not as a personal loss that I needed time to process, but as a logistical problem that required immediate solution through family intervention. Over the following weekend, Jennifer and Michael revealed the full scope of their research and recommendations. They had prepared detailed analyses of business management companies, equipment leasing services, staff augmentation solutions, and automotive franchise opportunities throughout Nevada. They had researched property management services, accounting firms, and business brokers who specialized in helping seniors navigate complex asset management decisions. Most disturbing, they had prepared what amounted to a comprehensive plan for transforming my hands-on automotive operation into what they described as a more sustainable business model. "Mom, we know this seems overwhelming," Jennifer said as she spread charts and brochures across my dining room table. "But we want you to see all the amazing options that exist for people in your situation." "What exactly is my situation?" "Well, you're a 70-year-old business owner trying to manage a complex operation that requires constant physical labor and technical expertise. You're dealing with grief, significant financial assets, and the responsibility of maintaining a demanding business without the partner who helped you manage it for 30 years. Jennifer was describing my life as a series of problems and burdens, rather than as an experience that included both challenges and tremendous satisfaction. She had reduced my relationship with Vincent to a business partnership focused on technical support, rather than a marriage that involved emotional, intellectual, and creative collaboration. "Jennifer, I'm managing the business just fine. I've been actively involved in every aspect of its operation throughout our marriage." "Of course you have. But Dorothy, there's a difference between being involved and being the primary decision-maker responsible for everything. You're going from a shared responsibility model to having to handle everything independently. I prefer handling things independently to having other people make decisions about my business." "But that's exactly our point," Michael interjected. "You shouldn't have to handle everything independently. There are professional services, management companies, and business arrangements that could provide support while preserving your ownership and control." Michael was presenting their intervention as a way to preserve my independence, while actually arguing that I should give up the independence I currently enjoyed in favor of support that I hadn't requested and didn't need. The weekend continued, with increasingly detailed presentations about why my current business model was unsustainable, and why their recommended alternatives would be better for everyone involved. Jennifer had prepared a financial analysis comparing the costs of maintaining my current operation versus the costs of various management and franchise options. According to her calculations, I was spending approximately $180,000 per year on employee salaries, equipment maintenance, facility costs, and insurance, while comparable franchise operations would provide management support, marketing assistance, and operational guidance for initial fees of $50,000 to $150,000 plus ongoing royalties of 6 to 12% of gross revenue. "Dorothy, When you factor in the value of professional management, proven business systems, and corporate support, the franchise options actually offer better value than trying to operate independently. Jennifer's analysis ignored several crucial factors. I enjoyed managing my own operation. I had no interest in corporate oversight or standardized procedures. I valued autonomy and creative control over systematic efficiency. And most importantly, my business was already highly profitable and didn't need the improvements that franchise systems typically provided. Jennifer, my business is already profitable and well managed. Why would I want to pay franchise fees and give up control to achieve what I'm already accomplishing independently? But Dorothy, profitability isn't the only consideration. You also have to think about scalability, sustainability, and risk management. Franchise systems provide proven methods for handling all those challenges. I'm not interested in scaling beyond what I can personally oversee, and my current operation is perfectly sustainable. But what about risk management? What happens if you get sick, or if key employees leave, or if major equipment breaks down? Independent operations are vulnerable to disruptions that franchise systems are designed to handle. Jennifer was suggesting that I should give up successful independence in favor of corporate dependency based on hypothetical problems that might or might not occur. Michael reinforced Jennifer's analysis with his own research about the challenges of operating independent automotive businesses in an increasingly consolidated industry. Mom, I've been reading about the trends affecting independent repair shops. Things like consolidation by corporate chains, competition from dealer service departments, and the increasing complexity of modern vehicle technology. Michael, I'm well aware of industry trends. Our business has been adapting to technological changes and competitive pressures for 30 years. But Mom, adaptation is getting harder and more expensive. Modern diagnostic equipment costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the training required to service hybrid and electric vehicles is incredibly specialized. Michael, we already have state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and certified training for hybrid vehicle service. We've been staying current with technology throughout our entire operation. But what happens when that equipment becomes obsolete, or when new technologies emerge that require even more specialized training? Can you really keep up with the pace of change independently? Michael was asking me to plan my current business around hypothetical future challenges rather than my actual present capabilities and track record of successful adaptation. Michael, we'll address new technologies and equipment needs as they arise, just as we have for the past 30 years. That's how successful businesses operate, by adapting to changes rather than abandoning independence out of fear. But wouldn't it be smarter to partner with organizations that have the resources to handle technological changes systematically? If you joined a franchise system now, while you're healthy and can choose the best options, you'd be positioned for whatever changes come later. The logic seemed reasonable on the surface, but it required me to give up my current successful operation based on the assumption that future challenges would be insurmountable rather than manageable obstacles that I could handle with my experience and resources. The most revealing part of their weekend presentation came when they started discussing what would happen to my business if I decided to accept one of their franchise or management recommendations. Obviously, you'd want to restructure your operation to take advantage of corporate systems and proven procedures, Jennifer said, as if this were an obvious conclusion rather than a decision I would need to make. Would I? Well, maintaining independent procedures while paying franchise fees would defeat the purpose of joining a corporate system. The whole point is to benefit from their expertise and proven methods. What would happen to the customer? Relationships and specialized services that make our business successful? The new systems would handle customer management more efficiently, and corporate training would ensure that service quality meets standardized requirements. Jennifer was suggesting that the customer relationships that represented 30 years of trust building and the specialized expertise that differentiated our business from competitors were less important than corporate efficiency and standardized procedures. Jennifer, Our customer relationships are based on personal service and specialized expertise that corporate systems can't replicate. Dorothy, I understand that this place has sentimental value, but you have to be realistic about your priorities. Your long-term security and reduced stress are more important than preserving business practices that are becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Who says they're becoming difficult to maintain? Well, eventually, every business owner reaches a point where they can't manage complex operations independently. It's better to plan for that transition while you still have choices rather than waiting until you're forced to make decisions in a crisis. This conversation revealed that Jennifer viewed my attachment to our business methods as sentimental rather than practical, and that she considered my future decline to be certain rather than possible. But what came next showed the true scope of their plans for my business and their role in its transformation. Actually, Michael said, Jennifer and I have been talking about the possibility of getting more involved in the business ourselves, if you do decide to make changes. You want to get involved in my business? We want to help you manage the transition and ensure that the business continues to honor what you and Dad built here. If you joined a franchise system, we could help coordinate the conversion process and manage ongoing compliance with corporate requirements. What kind of involvement are you talking about? Well, this business would be perfect for professional management, corporate partnerships, maybe even expansion into multiple locations. We could help you develop the growth potential while preserving the technical excellence that you and Dad established. Michael was proposing to help me restructure my business along corporate lines while positioning himself and Jennifer as managers of the transformation process. Michael, if this business has potential for professional management and expansion, why couldn't I pursue those opportunities myself? Because, Mom, that kind of development requires significant time investment, corporate relationship management, franchise compliance expertise, and the energy to handle demanding growth operations. Even if you have the financial resources, do you really want to take on that kind of project at your age? Michael was acknowledging that my business had excellent potential for exactly the kind of expansion I had been privately researching, while simultaneously arguing that I was too old to pursue that potential myself. Michael, I have 50 years of automotive business experience. I've literally built and operated exactly the kind of businesses you're describing. But that was when you were younger and had Dad to help with the technical operations. This would be a huge undertaking that would require years of intensive management. What makes you think I'm not interested in years of intensive management? Mom, you're 70 years old. Shouldn't you be thinking about reducing your workload and enjoying your retirement rather than taking on new business challenges? Michael was suggesting that my age automatically made me unsuitable for business expansion, despite my demonstrated expertise and proven track record. Jennifer reinforced Michael's perspective with her own analysis of the practical challenges involved in business development. Dorothy, franchise conversion involves dealing with corporate headquarters, compliance departments, training programs, marketing coordinators, financial reporting requirements. It's incredibly complex and demanding. Jennifer, I've managed complex business operations throughout my career. Why would I suddenly be incapable of handling corporate relationships now? It's not that you're incapable. It's that this kind of project requires years of sustained effort and attention to detail, plus the ability to handle stress and solve problems quickly. Even capable people find it overwhelming. Jennifer was suggesting that I should avoid challenging and rewarding work because it might be overwhelming, rather than recognizing that I might find such work energizing and fulfilling. But the most disturbing aspect of their weekend presentation was how they had begun to position themselves as the responsible family members who were looking out for my best interests, while implying that my resistance to their suggestions was evidence of poor judgment or emotional instability. Mom, we know this is hard to think about, Michael said during one particularly condescending conversation. Losing Dad was traumatic, and making major business decisions while you're grieving is really difficult. We just want to help you avoid making choices that you might regret later. Michael was suggesting that my grief was impairing my judgment and that my preferences about my own business were potentially mistaken, rather than valid expressions of my values and priorities. Michael, I'm not making decisions based on grief. I'm making decisions based on what I want my business to look like going forward. But Mom, are you sure you're thinking clearly about what's realistic? Sometimes when people are dealing with loss, they hold on to things that represent their past rather than planning for their future. My business doesn't just represent my past. It represents my ongoing work and my future possibilities. But what if those possibilities aren't actually realistic anymore? What if you're holding on to a business model that made sense when Dad was alive but doesn't make sense for your current situation? Michael was suggesting that my business model had been dependent on Vincent in ways that made it impossible to continue, rather than recognizing that I had been an equal partner in creating and maintaining our operation. Jennifer reinforced Michael's psychological analysis with her own observations about my adjustment process. Dorothy, it's completely normal to want to maintain everything exactly as it was when Vincent was alive. That's a natural part of grieving. But eventually, healthy adjustment means accepting that some things need to change. What needs to change specifically? Well, your business responsibilities, your daily routines, your long-term planning, all of those were built around being part of a team. Now that you're operating independently, it makes sense to create systems that are designed for single-person management. Jennifer was suggesting that my current business model was inherently unhealthy because it had been designed for team management, rather than recognizing that I was perfectly capable of independent operation in the business I had helped create. Jennifer, I am operating independently. I'm managing my business, my employees, my customer relationships, and my financial planning without assistance from anyone. But for how much longer? And at what cost? You're spending enormous amounts of time and energy maintaining a business model that's becoming increasingly difficult to sustain. I'm spending time and energy on work that I find meaningful and fulfilling. But Dorothy, there are so many other meaningful and fulfilling activities that you could pursue if you weren't tied down by daily business management responsibilities. You could travel, take courses, join social organizations, develop new interests and hobbies. Jennifer was painting a picture of retirement activities that might appeal to some people but had no connection to my actual interests or values. She was suggesting that I should give up work I found rewarding in favor of generic senior activities that she assumed would be more appropriate for my age. The weekend concluded with Jennifer and Michael presenting what they called their recommendation for my consideration. Mom, after looking at all the options and analyzing your situation comprehensively, we think the best choice would be Premium Auto Care Systems, the franchise operation that specializes in independent shop conversions. They have proven methods for transitioning established businesses into their corporate system while preserving the technical expertise that makes them successful. You want me to convert my business into a franchise operation? We want you to choose a partnership that can provide professional support while allowing you to maintain ownership and involvement at whatever level feels comfortable. Michael and Jennifer were recommending that I give up independent control of my business in favor of corporate oversight, franchise fees, and standardized procedures. Michael, I have no interest in corporate oversight or franchise requirements. But Mom, you don't have to handle the corporate relationships yourself. Premium Auto Care provides management support that handles all the compliance and reporting requirements. You could focus on the technical work you enjoy while they handle the business administration. I enjoy business administration. That's been my primary responsibility for 30 years. But wouldn't it be easier to focus on automotive work rather than worrying about marketing, accounting, regulatory compliance, and employee management? I don't worry about those things. I manage them competently because I have the experience and knowledge to do so. Michael and Jennifer were suggesting that I should give up responsibilities I handled well in favor of corporate management I didn't want or need. Jennifer concluded their presentation with what she clearly considered a generous offer. Dorothy, If you decide to move forward with the premium auto care conversion, Michael and I would be happy to coordinate all the transition details. We could handle the franchise application process, the facility conversion requirements, and help you adjust to the new management systems. You want to manage the conversion of my business? We want to make the transition as smooth as possible for you. Franchise conversions can be complicated and stressful, especially when they involve established businesses that have unique features and long-standing customer relationships. Jennifer was offering to manage the restructuring of my business as if this were a favor, rather than an opportunity for them to position themselves as intermediaries between me and the corporate system they wanted me to join. Jennifer, I'm perfectly capable of managing business transitions. I've bought, sold, and restructured automotive businesses throughout my career. Of course you are. But this would be an emotional transition, not just a business transaction. Having family members handle the details might be easier than dealing with all the stress and paperwork yourself. Jennifer was suggesting that I would be too emotional to handle the business aspects of restructuring my own operation, despite my decades of business management experience. But what revealed the true scope of their intentions was Michael's casual comment about their own career situation. Actually, Mom, if you do decide to move forward with the franchise conversion, Jennifer and I have been thinking about making some changes in our own work situation. We've been working in Las Vegas for several years, but we're thinking about opportunities that would allow us to be more involved in family business. What does that have to do with my business? Well, if you convert to a franchise system, premium auto care allows for family member involvement in management roles. Jennifer's marketing experience and my business administration background would be perfect for helping manage a multi-location automotive operation. Michael was suggesting that they could become managers of my converted business while I focused on technical work under corporate oversight. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment when their assumptions about my declining capabilities would collide with the reality of what I had actually been building while they were planning my corporate conversion. Like the Castellano automotive network that launches its first acquisition next month. The silence in my dining room was profound. Jennifer and Michael stared at me as if I had announced that I was planning to open a space program. What? Michael finally managed. I've spent the last 18 months developing a network of independent automotive businesses that will compete directly with corporate chains while maintaining the personalized service and technical expertise that customers value. We're launching with the acquisition of 3 established repair shops and have financing approved for 12 additional locations over the next 2 years. Jennifer looked like she was having trouble processing what I was saying. Dorothy, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the business empire I've been building while you've been researching franchise conversions. The Castellano Automotive Network is a fully capitalized, professionally managed, and strategically positioned group of independent shops that's already generating revenue from our first acquisitions. Michael grabbed my arm. Mom, are you serious? You've been acquiring other businesses? I've been building a business network. The first 3 shops are operational under our management. The financing partnerships are established, the technical training programs are running, and our expansion plan is ahead of schedule. I walked to my desk and pulled out a thick portfolio that I had been keeping ready for exactly this moment. What's that? Jennifer asked, though her voice suggested she already suspected the answer would destroy everything they had been planning. This is the business plan, financial projections, acquisition documents, and operational reports for Castellano Automotive Network. Would you like to see what I've been working on while you've been planning my franchise conversion? I opened the portfolio and spread the contents across the table, pushing aside their premium auto care brochures and conversion timelines to make room for legal documents, financial spreadsheets, acquisition contracts, and professional photographs of our newly acquired facilities. The first page showed a detailed map of Nevada, California, and Arizona with red pins marking our current locations and blue pins showing our planned expansion sites. Our 3 operational facilities were generating combined monthly revenue of $340,000. with projections showing $2.8 million annually once all 12 planned locations were operational. "Mom," Michael whispered, "when did you do all this?" "I've been working on it since 8 months after your father died. The planning, financing, acquisition, and management coordination have taken 14 months, and we're launching our regional expansion next quarter." Jennifer was staring at the acquisition documents with the expression of someone watching their life savings disappear in a market crash. "Dorothy, this is impossible. You can't have acquired multiple businesses without us knowing about it." "I can, and I did. While you were researching ways to convince me that I was too old to manage my own business, I was working with business attorneys, financial advisors, and industry specialists to create exactly the kind of operation that you said was too complex for someone my age to handle." I pulled out the financial projections and placed them directly in front of Jennifer. "According to our conservative estimates, Castellano Automotive Network will generate $4.2 million in gross revenue during our first full year of multi-location operation, with net profits of approximately $1.8 million after all expenses, staff, salaries, and acquisition loan payments." Michael was staring at the numbers as if they were written in ancient hieroglyphics. "Mom, are you saying you're going to make almost $2 million a year from this network?" "I'm saying I already am making substantial income from this network. We've been operational for 6 months, and we're exceeding projections at 115% of budgeted revenue. The waiting list for our specialized services extends into next year, and we're recruiting experienced technicians from corporate chains who want to work in quality-focused independent operations." Jennifer finally found her voice, though it sounded strained and desperate. "Dorothy, this is insane. You can't run a multi-location business network by yourself. The coordination requirements, the staffing challenges, the regulatory compliance issues. It's incredibly complex and demanding." "You're absolutely right. That's why I hired Marcus Rodriguez as our network general manager. He has 20 years of experience managing automotive service chains in California and Nevada. I also hired Sarah Chen as our operations director. She has an MBA in business administration and worked for 12 years managing franchise operations before deciding she wanted to focus on independent business development." I pulled out staff photographs and organizational charts showing our complete management team. "We also have a network training director with ASE master certification and teaching experience, a customer service coordinator who speaks 3 languages, a parts procurement specialist who has relationships with suppliers throughout the Southwest, and a quality control manager who ensures that every location maintains our technical standards." Michael was looking through the staff profiles with the expression of someone discovering that his elderly mother had secretly been running General Motors. "Mom, how did you hire all these people? How did you even know where to find them?" "Michael, I spent 50 years in the automotive industry. I have relationships with trade associations, technical schools, business consultants, and industry professionals throughout the Southwest. These are exactly the kinds of people I've been working with my entire career." Jennifer was studying the financial projections with the desperate intensity of someone looking for any flaw that would prove the entire plan was unrealistic. "Dorothy, these revenue numbers seem incredibly optimistic. How do you know that multiple, independent shops can actually compete with corporate chains and franchise operations?" I smiled and pulled out our performance reports. "Because they already are. Our 3 operational locations are outperforming comparable franchise operations by 23% in customer satisfaction ratings and 31% in repeat business rates. We're charging premium prices for specialized services and maintaining full appointment schedules, while corporate chains are struggling with customer complaints and employee turnover. But who are these customers? Who pays premium prices for automotive service when they can get cheaper work at corporate locations? Customers who own high-value vehicles and want quality work from experienced technicians. Fleet managers who need reliable service and can't afford downtime from poor repairs. Car enthusiasts who want specialized knowledge and custom work that corporate technicians can't provide. I pulled out our customer demographic analysis and market research. Our target market includes people with household incomes over $75,000 who prioritize quality and reliability over low prices. It's a growing market segment that corporate chains struggle to serve because their business model is based on volume and standardization, rather than expertise and customization. Michael was shaking his head in amazement. "Mom, I can't believe you developed all of this without telling us. I can't believe you spent 14 months trying to convince me to give up my independence without ever asking what I wanted to do with my business." The truth of that statement hung in the air between us. Jennifer and Michael had been so focused on their assumptions about my limitations that they had never considered the possibility that I might have my own plans for expansion and growth. Jennifer made one final attempt to salvage their vision of my corporate conversion and their management role. "Dorothy, even if this network idea works initially, it's going to be incredibly demanding to coordinate. You'll be managing multiple locations, dealing with different local regulations, handling complex staffing issues. It's going to be exhausting." "Jennifer, I'm not personally managing daily operations at each location. I'm the owner and strategic director, but Marcus handles operational coordination. Sarah manages administrative compliance, and our location managers handle day-to-day customer service. My role is business development and quality oversight. But what happens when locations have problems, or when staff have emergencies, or when equipment breaks down across multiple sites? You'll be responsible for solving every crisis that occurs. Jennifer, I've been solving automotive business crises for 50 years. Crisis management and problem-solving are exactly the skills that made me successful in this industry." Michael tried a different approach. "But Mom, what about your health? What about aging? What happens if you get sick or can't manage the business responsibilities?" "Michael, I have comprehensive business insurance, detailed succession planning and management agreements that would allow the network to continue operating if I became unable to fulfill my duties. I've planned for every contingency that you seem to think I'm too old to anticipate." I pulled out our insurance policies and legal documentation. "Michael, are you asking me to convert my business to a franchise system so you can become managers while I work as a technician? We're asking you to consider options that would work for everyone. If you joined Premium Auto Care, you'd have professional support for business management. We'd be able to contribute our skills to a family operation, and everyone would benefit from the arrangement. How would I benefit from giving up control of my business so you can manage it under corporate supervision? You'd benefit by having guaranteed professional support, proven business systems, and the peace of mind that comes from knowing your business is being managed by family members who understand its importance." Michael was framing my loss of business control as a benefit I would receive rather than a sacrifice I would make for their career convenience and corporate oversight. But what I found most disturbing about this entire weekend was how Jennifer and Michael had developed their plans for my future without ever asking what I wanted or what would make me happy. They had researched franchise systems, analyzed corporate partnerships, and calculated management fees, but they had never inquired about my own goals, interests, or vision for my business going forward. They had assumed that being widowed at 70 automatically made me a candidate for corporate management and family supervision, regardless of my capabilities, experience, or preferences. They had decided that their vision of appropriate business management should override my own choices about how to operate my company. Most importantly, they had revealed that their concern for my welfare was inseparable from their interest in positioning themselves as managers of my business under a corporate system that would limit my autonomy while providing them with career opportunities. But what Jennifer and Michael didn't know was that while they were spending their weekend trying to convince me to give up independent control and accept corporate oversight, I had been spending my month since Vincent's death developing a very different vision for my business and my future. A vision that would honor Vincent's memory and our technical expertise, while creating exactly the kind of automotive empire that Michael had acknowledged was perfect for expansion, but with me as the owner and operator rather than a managed technician under corporate supervision. While they were researching franchise systems, I had been consulting with business attorneys, industry analysts, and financial advisors about acquiring additional automotive businesses and creating a network of independent shops that would compete directly with corporate chains while maintaining the personalized service and technical expertise that made customers choose independent operators. While they were calculating franchise fees, I had been analyzing opportunities to purchase struggling repair shops, invest in cutting-edge diagnostic equipment, and hire skilled technicians who were frustrated with corporate limitations and wanted to work in facilities that prioritized quality over standardized procedures. While they were planning my business conversion, I had been designing an expansion strategy that would make their franchise management dreams irrelevant while providing me with the most exciting and rewarding work of my entire career. But I wasn't ready to reveal any of these plans yet. I wanted to see how far they would go with their campaign to convince me that I was too old and overwhelmed to manage my own business. I wanted to understand exactly what they were planning for my operation and my future before I showed them what I was actually capable of achieving. Because while they were researching ways to manage me out of independent business ownership, I was preparing to show them exactly who they had underestimated. Their assumptions about my declining capabilities were about to collide with my next expansion venture in ways that would make their corporate management fantasies look like children, playing with toy businesses. But first, they had to complete their campaign to convince me that I needed their oversight and guidance. That campaign was about to escalate into outright manipulation, false expertise, and emotional pressure that would finally force the confrontation they weren't prepared for. Little did they know that every condescending suggestion they made about my limitations was actually confirming my determination to prove them spectacularly wrong. The conversation that would change everything was approaching, and they had no idea that their assumptions about my automotive knowledge were about to collide with the reality of my business empire in the most expensive way possible. Their plan to abandon me at a mechanic shop while they drove away in a car I secretly owned was about to become the moment when their underestimation of my capabilities would cost them everything they thought they were entitled to inherit. The moment that changed everything came on a crisp October morning, during what Jennifer had scheduled as our final decision meeting about my business situation. Instead of the compliant agreement to their franchise conversion plans that they expected, it became the morning when I revealed exactly how spectacular their underestimation of my capabilities would prove to be. Jennifer had called the week before to arrange what she described as an important family meeting to finalize your business transition plans. Dorothy, Michael, and I have found the perfect solution for your situation, and we need to move quickly to secure your position with Premium Auto Care Systems. They have an opening in their next conversion cycle, but we need to submit your application by Friday to guarantee your spot. Jennifer, I haven't agreed to convert my business to a franchise system. I know. But Dorothy, we've been discussing this for months, and you haven't presented any realistic alternatives. At some point, you need to make a decision instead of just avoiding the inevitable. What's inevitable? The fact that you can't continue operating an independent automotive business indefinitely. You're 70 years old and managing a complex technical operation is becoming too much for one person to handle safely. Jennifer was presenting my future decline as a certainty rather than a possibility, and framing their preferred solution as the only reasonable option rather than one choice among many. Jennifer, I'm managing the business perfectly well. For now, maybe. But what happens when that changes? What happens when you can't keep up with new technology, or when major equipment breaks down, or just can't handle the administrative demands anymore? If you wait until there's a crisis, you won't have good options. And if I convert to Premium Auto Care now, while I'm capable and successful, what happens to all the work Vincent and I spent 30 years building? Dorothy, that work was meaningful when you and Vincent were doing it together. But now it's just a burden that's preventing you from enjoying your retirement and creating unnecessary stress in your life. Jennifer was dismissing 3 decades of business development and customer relationships as a burden, rather than recognizing it as ongoing work that continued to provide income and satisfaction. When Jennifer and Michael arrived that Thursday morning, they brought printed contracts, financial calculators, and what appeared to be a comprehensive timeline for converting my operation to corporate management. "Mom," Michael said as he spread documents across my dining room table, "we've worked out all the details and everything looks great. You can join Premium Auto Care next month. We can coordinate the conversion process immediately, and the whole transition can be completed before the holidays. I haven't agreed to any conversion." "But Mom, we've been talking about this for months. At some point, talking needs to turn into action. We've found you a perfect corporate partnership, arranged all the logistics, and worked out the management details. All you need to do is sign the papers." Michael was treating my months of resistance to their plans as a prolonged decision-making process that had naturally led to accepting their recommendations, rather than as clear rejections of their entire approach. Jennifer reinforced Michael's, framing with her own interpretation of our previous conversations. "Dorothy, I know change is scary, but you've had time to research your options and think about what's best for your future. Premium Auto Care really is the perfect solution. It provides professional management, proven systems, and corporate support while giving you freedom from daily business administration responsibilities." "Jennifer, I don't want freedom from business administration responsibilities. I want to continue managing my own business." "But why? What are you hoping to accomplish by staying independent? You're not expanding into new markets anymore. You're not developing innovative services, and you're not building for the future. You're just maintaining things that used to be exciting when Vincent was alive." Jennifer was arguing that my work had lost meaning when Vincent died, rather than recognizing that I was perfectly capable of continuing and expanding our business operations independently. "Jennifer, I'm continuing all of our services and developing several new business opportunities. Like what? I also have key person insurance that would provide $3 million to the network if something happened to me, plus disability insurance that would cover my income if I became unable to work. Everything you've been worried about is already addressed by professional planning and adequate insurance coverage." Jennifer's last desperate attempt focused on the emotional manipulation that had been central to their strategy. "Dorothy, don't you think Vincent would want you to be secure and comfortable rather than taking these kinds of risks at your age?" "Jennifer, Vincent would be incredibly proud that I'm using everything we built together to create something even more meaningful and impactful. This network honors his memory while providing quality automotive service to thousands of customers who appreciate expertise and reliability." I pulled out the final piece of documentation, the dedication plaque, that would be installed at each network location. The Castellano Automotive Network is dedicated to the memory of Vincent Castellano, whose commitment to technical excellence and customer service continues to inspire automotive professionals throughout the Southwest. Michael was reading the dedication with tears in his eyes. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we didn't understand what you were planning. I'm sorry we underestimated you. Michael, you didn't just underestimate me. You tried to convince me that I was too old and overwhelmed to manage my own business, while simultaneously planning to position yourselves as managers of my converted operation for your own career benefit." The accusation was direct and undeniable. Jennifer and Michael had been operating from mixed motives, genuine concern combined with self-interest and assumptions about aging that had no basis in my actual capabilities. "We thought we were helping," Jennifer said quietly. "You thought you were managing. There's a difference between helping someone achieve their goals and trying to convince them to abandon their goals in favor of your preferences." But what came next was the most satisfying revelation of all. "Actually, there's one more thing you should know about the network," I said, pulling out the final document from my portfolio. "What's that?" Michael asked. "The financing for our expansion is being provided by Castellano Financial Services, specialized automotive lending company that I established 3 years ago. And one of our most successful loan products is financing for luxury vehicle purchases, including a $45,000 BMW that was purchased 18 months ago by a young couple from Las Vegas. The irony was perfect. Jennifer and Michael had been trying to convince me to abandon my business independence while making payments on a loan from the very financial company I had built, while they thought I was just managing a simple repair shop. "You financed our car?" Jennifer asked in amazement. "I financed your car through the lending network that I've been developing for the past 3 years, and which now provides automotive financing throughout Nevada and California. Your monthly payments have been helping fund the business expansion that you've been telling me I'm too old to handle." Michael looked like he was finally beginning to understand the full scope of what I had accomplished while they were planning my corporate conversion. "Mom, you built a financing company and a business network while we were trying to convince you to join a franchise system? I built exactly the kind of business empire that you acknowledged had potential, while you were telling me I was too old to manage exactly what I was actually building." The conversation continued for another hour, with Jennifer and Michael gradually accepting that their assumptions about my limitations had been completely wrong, and that their plans for my future had been based on fundamental misunderstandings about my capabilities and intentions. But the most important outcome was Michael's recognition of how his values had shifted over the years, and his decision to reconnect with the automotive principles that had originally inspired his education and work ethic. "Mom, I've been so focused on corporate management and franchise systems that I lost sight of what actually creates value. You and Dad built something meaningful here, and instead of supporting your expansion of that work, I tried to convince you to abandon it for corporate oversight. Michael, it's never too late to realign your priorities with your values. Marcus made that choice when he left franchise management to come here and help build something that prioritizes quality over standardization." 3 months later, Michael quit his casino job and joined our network as business development director, using his administrative skills to support independent automotive businesses rather than promoting corporate franchise conversions. Jennifer struggled more with accepting that her assumptions about aging and capability had been wrong, but she eventually became one of our most effective marketing coordinators, using her hospitality experience to promote premium automotive services rather than luxury entertainment packages. But perhaps the most satisfying outcome was seeing the Castellano Automotive Network become exactly what Vincent and I had always envisioned: a group of businesses where people could experience quality automotive service, learn about technical expertise, and understand that aging doesn't have to mean declining into dependence and corporate management. Our customers include people in their 70s and 80s who are maintaining classic vehicles, learning about hybrid technology, and pursuing automotive projects rather than accepting that their age makes them unsuitable for technical challenges and creative work. The network has become a demonstration that expertise and capability don't diminish automatically with age, and that the assumption that elderly people need corporate management rather than independent opportunity is both wrong and harmful. 6 months after our regional launch, we received our first major recognition: the Nevada Independent Business Award for Outstanding Entrepreneurship. The ceremony was held at our flagship location, with Marcus preparing a presentation featuring customer testimonials and staff achievements from across our network. During my acceptance speech, I looked out at an audience that included automotive professionals, business leaders, community officials, and customers who had traveled from around the region to experience the quality service we provided. This award belongs to everyone who believes that aging should mean growing into expertise and leadership rather than declining into management and oversight, I said. It belongs to everyone who understands that the assumption that elderly people need corporate supervision rather than entrepreneurial opportunity is not just wrong. It's a waste of human potential that our communities can't afford. The standing ovation lasted for 8 minutes, but the most meaningful recognition came from a letter I received from a customer who had brought her vintage Mustang to one of our locations. "Dear Dorothy," she wrote, "I'm 68 years old, and I brought my car to your shop because my family has been pressuring me to sell it and buy something more practical. After seeing the expertise and passion that your technicians bring to classic car restoration and learning about what you've accomplished at age 70, I've decided to start my own classic car club instead. Thank you for showing me that my age makes me experienced, not expired. That letter now hangs in my office, next to photographs of Vincent and our original shop before we began its expansion. Every morning, I drive through our network locations, greeting staff members who are passionate about their work and customers, who are excited about quality automotive service and technical expertise. I'm 72 years old now, and I've never been busier, more challenged, or more fulfilled. The business that Jennifer and Michael wanted me to convert to a franchise system now employs 68 people full-time and provides automotive services to over 8,000 customers annually. The work that they dismissed as a burden that was preventing me from enjoying retirement has become the foundation for meaningful employment, technical education, and the demonstration that aging can mean expansion rather than corporate supervision. Most importantly, I've learned that the best response to people who underestimate your capabilities because of your age is to show them exactly what those capabilities can accomplish when they're unleashed rather than managed. Jennifer was right about one thing: operating a multi-location business network is demanding and complex. She was wrong about whether that's a problem or an opportunity. When people ask me for advice about dealing with family members who think they know what's best for your business, I tell them this: don't argue with people who have already decided you're too old, too overwhelmed, or too set in your ways to pursue your expansion plans. Instead, pursue your expansion so spectacularly that their assumptions become obviously ridiculous. And sometimes, the best revenge is building something so successful that other people's limitations on your potential become not just wrong, but expensive. For them personally. What would you have done in my situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story of turning family assumptions into business triumph resonated with you, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories of people who refuse to let others define their limitations. Because remember, it's never too late to prove everyone wrong about what you're capable of achieving, and it's never too early to start planning your next spectacular expansion. Age is just the number of years you've had to accumulate the experience and expertise that make your next business venture possible. The phone call that changed everything came on a quiet Tuesday evening in March, exactly 1 year after Jennifer had spread those franchise conversion brochures across my kitchen table. I was in my office reviewing applications for our summer apprenticeship program when my phone rang. "Dorothy, it's Jennifer. I need to talk to you about something important." Her voice sounded different, humbler, almost tentative, nothing like the confident tone she had used when explaining why I needed corporate management. "What can I help you with, Jennifer?" "I have a client situation, and I think I need your advice." The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who had spent months trying to convince me that I was too old and overwhelmed to manage my own affairs was now asking for my professional guidance. What kind of situation? I have marketing clients, the Brennans, who are in their late 60s. Their adult children are pressuring them to sell their custom auto detailing business and retire. But the Brennans don't want to give up their work. "The children hired me to help transition their parents into retirement, but after seeing what you've accomplished, Dorothy, I think I've been approaching this completely wrong." Jennifer was calling to confess that she had been making the same mistakes with other families that she had made with mine, assuming that age automatically meant incapacity and that adult children knew better than their parents about what would make them fulfilled. What do the Brennans want to do with their business? They want to expand it. They've been talking about adding paint protection services, maybe opening a second location. Their children think it's a ridiculous fantasy for people their age. And what do you think now? There was a long pause before Jennifer answered. "I think their children are making the same mistake I made with you. I think they're underestimating their parents' capabilities and trying to solve problems that don't actually exist. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to tell the Brennan children that I can't help them convince their parents to retire. And I'm going to ask the Brennans if they'd like marketing support for their expansion plans instead of being pressured to abandon them. Jennifer was describing a complete reversal of her approach to older business owners, from helping adult children manage their parents' retirements to helping older entrepreneurs pursue their own goals despite their children's concerns. Jennifer, that's exactly the right approach. The Brennans' age and their children's concerns don't automatically make their expansion ideas unrealistic. I know that now. Dorothy, I owe you a huge apology. I spent months trying to convince you that your age made you unsuitable for exactly the kind of project you were already successfully completing. I was completely wrong about aging, about capability, and about what older people are able to accomplish. What changed your perspective? Seeing your network succeed beyond anything Michael and I thought was possible. Watching you manage a complex, multi-location operation that generates more revenue than most companies in this state. Realizing that everything I thought I knew about aging and capability was based on stereotypes rather than evidence. But Jennifer's transformation went deeper than just changing her approach to older clients. Dorothy, I've been thinking about my own future differently too. I'm 31 years old, and I've been planning my career around the assumption that I need to accumulate enough money to retire comfortably by 60 so I can stop working and enjoy my remaining years. And now I'm thinking that maybe the goal shouldn't be to stop working. Maybe it should be to find work that's so meaningful and fulfilling that I never want to stop doing it. Like what you've created with the network. Jennifer was describing a fundamental shift from viewing aging as decline that requires preparation and management to viewing it as an opportunity for continued growth and meaningful contribution. Jennifer, meaningful work at any age is one of the most important factors in health, happiness, and longevity. You're absolutely right to think about creating a career that you love rather than planning to escape from work that you tolerate. Over the following months, Jennifer began specializing in helping older business owners develop their expansion plans rather than convincing them to downsize and retire. She became an advocate for what she called aging into opportunity rather than aging into management. The idea that growing older should mean expanding possibilities rather than accepting limitations imposed by others. But the most profound transformation happened with Michael. 8 months after joining our network as business development director, Michael called a family meeting to discuss something he described as a personal and professional revelation. Mom, I need to tell you about something I've learned working in the automotive network. We were sitting in my office overlooking our main facility, watching our evening shift handle the complex diagnostic work that corporate chains couldn't manage. What have you learned? I've learned that everything I thought I knew about success, aging and meaningful work was completely backwards. How so? For the last 8 years, I've been working in casino management, making good money, accumulating assets, and planning for a comfortable retirement. I thought success meant earning enough money to eventually stop working and enjoy leisure activities. And now? Now I see business owners in their 70s and 80s who are more energetic, more innovative, and more engaged with their work than I was in my 30s. They're not here because they can't afford to retire. They're here because they've found work that gives their lives meaning and purpose. Michael was describing the same revelation that many of our network partners experienced, that aging doesn't have to mean declining into passivity and limitation. Michael, what do you think makes the difference? Purpose. The business owners who seem most vital and successful are the ones who have found work that feels meaningful to them. They're not trying to retire from life. They're trying to make their lives more purposeful and impactful. And how does that change your own planning? It makes me realize that planning for retirement is the wrong goal. Planning for continued growth and meaningful contribution makes much more sense. Michael's transformation led to his decision to completely restructure his career around automotive business development and technical excellence rather than casino, management, and financial accumulation. But perhaps the most satisfying outcome was the impact our network began having on other families dealing with similar conflicts about aging and business capability. We started receiving calls from adult children who had visited our facilities and realized that their assumptions about their parents' limitations might be wrong. We also heard from older business owners who had been pressured by their families to sell or retire and wanted to explore alternatives that would allow them to pursue their own expansion goals. One of the most memorable conversations was with Robert Chen, a 68-year-old retired engineer whose son had been pressuring him to stop his hobby of rebuilding classic motorcycles. "Mrs. Castellano, my son thinks I'm too old to work on motorcycles safely. He's been showing me brochures for senior communities and telling me that it's not appropriate for someone my age to be working with tools and engines. How do you feel about your motorcycle work?" "I love it. I've been rebuilding bikes for 40 years. I know every component and system, and I'm perfectly capable of working safely. But my son keeps talking about what-if scenarios. What if I hurt myself? What if I can't handle the physical demands? What if I have an accident? Robert, what would you like to do instead of giving up your motorcycle work?" "I'd like to start a small restoration business. I could help other people restore their classic bikes, maybe even teach some classes on motorcycle maintenance and repair." "That sounds like a wonderful way to use your engineering background and mechanical expertise. My son thinks it's unrealistic for someone my age to start a business. He says I should be focused on enjoying retirement rather than taking on new responsibilities. Robert, do you think motorcycle restoration would feel like a burden or an opportunity?" "It would feel like exactly the kind of meaningful work I've always wanted to do." I invited Robert to visit our network and participate in our Entrepreneurship After 65 workshop, which we had developed specifically for older adults who wanted to pursue business ventures despite family concerns about their age and capabilities. 4. Months later, Robert launched Classic Revival Motorcycles, a restoration and education business that operates out of his garage and serves motorcycle enthusiasts throughout Nevada. His son, who had been pressuring him to give up his dangerous hobby, is now helping him manage the business's social media and customer relations. Stories like Robert's became common as word spread about our network's approach to aging and capability. We began hosting monthly workshops specifically for families dealing with conflicts about older relatives' business independence and decision-making authority. The workshops, called Experience and Innovation, Rethinking Aging and Entrepreneurship, bring together older adults and their adult children to discuss stereotypes about aging, examine assumptions about decline and dependence, and explore ways to support continued growth and autonomy rather than premature retirement and management. One of our most successful workshop exercises involves adult children spending a day attempting to perform routine automotive tasks while wearing gloves that simulate arthritis, glasses that simulate vision changes, and ear protection that simulates hearing loss. The exercise helps them understand that physical changes associated with aging don't automatically translate into cognitive decline or inability to manage complex activities. More importantly, it helps them recognize that their parents' adaptation to age-related changes often represents increased competence rather than decreased capability. But the most significant impact of our network has been its influence on how the automotive industry thinks about older workers and business owners and what they're capable of achieving. When we first launched, most industry professionals assumed that automotive business owners over 65 wanted simple, safe, predictable operations with minimal technical demands and maximum corporate support. Our success with cutting-edge diagnostic equipment, advanced hybrid vehicle service, complex multi-location coordination, and technically demanding specialty work proved that many older business owners want exactly the opposite: challenging, innovative, meaningful work that pushes them to learn new skills and expand their capabilities. We now host an annual Innovation and Experience Conference that brings together automotive professionals, business development experts, and aging researchers to explore how the industry can better support older entrepreneurs who are interested in growth and innovation rather than maintenance and retirement. The conference has become one of the most influential events in independent automotive business development, with attendees from around the world coming to learn about our approach to combining technical expertise with business expansion for entrepreneurs of all ages. But perhaps the most personally meaningful recognition came when I received a call from Dr. Maria Santos, director of the UNLV Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Ms. Castellano, we've been following the success of your network, and we'd like to invite you to speak at our annual conference on age-diverse entrepreneurship and business innovation. I'd be honored to participate. We're particularly interested in your perspective on how assumptions about aging can become self-fulfilling prophecies, and how challenging those assumptions can lead to continued innovation and achievement. What aspects would you like me to address? We'd like you to talk about the difference between aging as capability management and aging as opportunity development. Your network demonstrates that many of the limitations we associate with aging are actually limitations in how we think about aging. The UNLV conference was attended by researchers, policymakers, business leaders, and entrepreneurs who were working to change societal attitudes about aging and business capability. During my keynote speech, I looked out at an audience of experts who were dedicated to helping older adults maintain business independence, pursue meaningful work, and continue contributing to their communities through entrepreneurship and innovation. The most dangerous assumption about aging, I said, isn't that our bodies change as we get older. The most dangerous assumption is that physical changes automatically mean cognitive decline, that experience automatically means inflexibility, and that age automatically means we need other people to make decisions about our businesses and our lives. I continued. When my family tried to convince me that I was too old to manage my own automotive business, they weren't just wrong about my capabilities, they were wrong about what aging means. They assumed that my 70 years represented decline from some earlier peak, rather than 70 years of accumulated experience, knowledge, and wisdom that made me more qualified to tackle complex business challenges, not less. The standing ovation lasted for 12 minutes. But the most rewarding outcome of the conference was the network of older entrepreneurs, researchers, and advocates who began collaborating on projects that challenge stereotypes about aging and business capability. We now host quarterly Wisdom and Innovation Summits that bring together entrepreneurs over 60 who are launching new ventures, researchers studying productive aging, and investors who are interested in supporting age-diverse startups. The summits have led to the creation of over 40 new businesses founded by people over 65, ranging from technology companies and consulting firms to manufacturing operations and service businesses. 1 year after my UNLV keynote, we received our most prestigious recognition, the Small Business Administration Award for Outstanding Entrepreneurial Achievement. The ceremony was held at our flagship facility, with delegates from around the country attending to learn about our model for combining business innovation with educational programs that challenge assumptions about aging and capability. During my acceptance speech, I shared the stage with 3 of our network partners who had used their experiences working with us to launch their own ventures. Robert Chen, who had expanded his motorcycle restoration business into 3 locations. Maria and Carlos Rodriguez, who had started an automotive training school, and Janet Williams, who had launched a consulting company providing business development services for older entrepreneurs. These remarkable individuals prove every day that aging doesn't mean accepting other people's limitations on your potential, I said. They prove that experience, wisdom, and accumulated knowledge are assets that become more valuable with age, not less. As I concluded my speech, I looked out at an audience that included family members who had initially opposed their relatives' business ventures, adult children who had learned to support rather than manage their parents' goals, and older adults who had discovered that their age made them experienced rather than expired. The Castellano Automotive Network exists to prove that the question isn't whether people over 65 are capable of learning new skills, managing complex operations, and contributing meaningfully to their communities, I said. The question is whether the rest of us are wise enough to get out of their way and support their efforts. The final standing ovation lasted for 18 minutes. That evening, as delegates from around the country toured our facilities and participated in our programs, I walked down to the original shop where Vincent and I had spent so many quiet evenings planning our business projects and dreaming about the legacy we wanted to leave. The shop was filled with the sounds of our evening shift handling complex diagnostic work and restoration projects that required decades of experience and cutting-edge equipment. The customer lounge was busy with car owners from 6 different states who had traveled here because they knew our technicians could handle problems that corporate chains couldn't solve. The training bay was hosting an evening class where experienced mechanics were teaching younger technicians advanced diagnostic techniques and problem-solving approaches that can't be learned from manuals or corporate training programs. I sat in Vincent's old office chair, surrounded by the sounds of people from multiple generations working together on challenging technical problems, and I realized that everything we had dreamed about had been exceeded in ways we never could have imagined. We had wanted to create a business that would provide quality automotive service and support skilled technical work. Instead, we had created a network that employed hundreds of people while providing services to thousands of customers who valued expertise over convenience. We had wanted to prove that independent businesses could compete with corporate chains by focusing on quality and customer relationships. Instead, we had created a model that was being studied and replicated by business schools and industry organizations across the country. Most importantly, we had wanted to show that aging doesn't have to mean accepting limitations imposed by other people's assumptions about what older adults are capable of achieving. Instead, we had created a living example that aging can mean using accumulated experience, wisdom, and knowledge to accomplish things that seemed impossible to people who confused chronological age with capability. As I sat in that office that night, surrounded by the sounds of people from around the country learning and growing and planning their own contributions to a more innovative business environment, I realized that Jennifer had been right about one thing during that confrontation 14 months earlier. She had said that operating a multi-location business network would be demanding and complex. She had been absolutely correct. What she had been wrong about was whether demanding and complex work was a problem to be avoided or an opportunity to be embraced. The Castellano Automotive Network proves every day that the most fulfilling life isn't the easiest life. It's the life that uses all of your accumulated experience, knowledge, and wisdom in service of something meaningful. And sometimes, the most satisfying victory isn't proving that you were right. It's creating something so successful that other people's assumptions about your limitations become obviously ridiculous. The franchise conversion brochures that Jennifer spread across my table that day are now part of our educational display about ageism and stereotypes about older business owners. And the business network that Michael and Jennifer thought was impossible for someone my age is now teaching people around the world that age is just the number of years you've had to accumulate the experience that makes your next business venture possible. But here's the twist that made everything even sweeter. 6 weeks after our confrontation, when Jennifer and Michael still hadn't made their BMW payment and were struggling with their own financial situation after quitting their Las Vegas jobs, I had to make a business decision about their loan. I could have simply repossessed the car, quietly through normal channels. Instead, I drove to their apartment with Marcus and Sarah, knocked on their door, and personally handed them the repossession notice. "I'm sorry," I said as they stood there in shock. "But Castellano Financial Services has to protect its investment portfolio. When borrowers miss payments and their financial situation becomes unstable, we have to take action to recover our assets." The look on their faces when they realized that the 70-year-old woman they had tried to manage into corporate dependency was personally repossessing their luxury vehicle was worth every moment of their condescending lectures about my supposed limitations. "But Dorothy," Jennifer stammered. "We were just going through a transition period. We thought we could work something out." "I'm sure you did," I replied. "But business is business. Maybe this experience will help you understand the difference between managing someone and underestimating someone." We sold their BMW at auction 3 weeks later. The proceeds helped fund our expansion into Arizona. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to prove people wrong about your capabilities? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story of turning family assumptions into business triumph resonated with you, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories of people who refuse to let others define their limitations. Because remember, it's never too late to prove everyone wrong about what you're capable of achieving, and it's never too early to start planning your next spectacular success. The only real limitation is accepting other people's assumptions about what's possible for someone your age. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is not just proving them wrong. It's literally repossessing their car while you do it. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.